Welcome, everyone, to November Power Hour. I am Tessa Chappell. I live outside Indianapolis in Indiana, joined by Megan Jacks out in sunny, warm Phoenix, Arizona. We can all be jealous. And tonight we're going to do two layouts as usual. This is our 49th edition of Power Hour. So hopefully you have your handouts, and we'll start with me and start with Megan. As you all know, I think we decided to have a tribute to the decorative trimmer, which got retired against our will this month. So both layouts do use a decorative trimmer. We did not actually agree to that. She sent me a picture and said that she was using it, and I said, I've already started, and I am too. So if you don't have it, you can just make some straight cuts maybe. And if you don't have it and you want it, I think we both still have some. Get yours before they're completely gone, because it is a nice little versatile tool to have. So I'll flip down to my tabletop. Should I choose the right camera? There we go. So if this looks a little familiar, it's because I'm using the same papers as I did last month. So remember last month I had some Thanksgiving pictures, and I still have Thanksgiving pictures. I actually picked them up today from Walmart, where I actually like to get my pictures printed. I think they turn out pretty well. Looks like I have some other ones not Thanksgiving in here. But I thought, well, I should just try to get this event done. And so I'm going to use the same papers and make a second set of layouts for my first set from last month. So the supplies that you'll need for mine, obviously you need your decorative trimmer. You do not have to use a 10 by 12 paper, but some of you that have old creative memory stashes, sometimes we have some fun prints that we have stashed away. So I am using a 10 by 12. You can also just cut down any paper to 10 by 12 for it. And then you need a print or whatever you want to highlight here in the cut. So I would not choose something too busy for your 10 by 12, something a little bit tonal. You can choose a solid, you could choose cardstock, and then you want like an accent, something you want to highlight in our swells and our waves. And then we'll finish off the layout. You can add some of the thin border elements. I'm using the same ones I did last month with some thin strips of paper and a punched pumpkin, or you could use border stickers or whatnot. I showed some options for frames and photos here, and we'll see what I can actually get to fit. So I did make it look pretty for the picture, because sometimes I feel like I leave the whole center blank and it's just not, it doesn't photograph as well. So you want to choose your main piece of paper and trim it down to 10 by 12 if it's not already 10 by 12. And then we're going to use a decorative trimmer. You can see that I have the blue one. The current version is white. They are the same. I still have yellow blades. The blades most recently are blue. They work the same. And we have the swell edge on the top and the wavy edge on the bottom. I do suggest turning it horizontally, at least to start to get your bearings. So when I put mine in, I have the waves down. So I'm sliding in my paper, and we have all of these 1/4 inch squares, depending on your color, your eyes, how well can you see them, but those are all 1/4 inches. As we've learned before, to center your paper, you're coming in one from the left, one from the right, and then we are going to put our paper one full block above that swell cut line. We do want to have a little bit of an edge border. We are going to use the piece that is cut out. So when you have your piece centered and straight against that line, I'm on the wrong line. I got to move it up to the swell line. So we're way up here actually for this one. And we're going to flip it and do the bottom one. Like to make sure close as possible, then flip the arm down. You can see your paper is going to peek out a little bit. If it's easier for you to turn it sideways, totally fine too. And then you're just going to cut your swell all the way across. We are going to use this piece, so we are going to save it. And then I'm going to flip my paper around, and I'm going to do the same thing on the wavy edge, which is where I started to line myself up, giving myself a 1/4 inch above. And then cut my wave all the way across. And we are going to use that piece also. So we are done with the decorative trimmer at this point. If it's easier for you to use a base paper, you can. Your print could be this full sheet of base paper. Sometimes I'm a little stingy with some of my prints. They're too hard to replace. There's no reason to waste all of it underneath here. So I'm going to cut two 2-inch strips from my leaf paper. And then I'm going to paper weld my base together. If you don't like to paper weld, you can always use like the insert from one of the paper packs or something to build on. So two 2-inch strips. You can make them a little wider if you want. It's just how much do you want to have to paper weld together. And I'm going to dry fit this before I do any taping. So I'm putting my wavy edge near the top. And the swell edge towards the bottom. Oh, the 2-inch strips top and bottom. If you have a direction to your print, this is the time to make sure it's right. And then I'm flipping my pieces. So the little wavy one will go at the bottom. And the little swell one will go at the top. So once you're confident in how your page is going to lay out, we really don't need the little ones yet. I just want to make sure you know where you're putting them. And then you can put tape along the top of the 2-inch strip using your 13 by 13 mat. I actually broke out the mini tape, which I don't use as much as I probably should. I'm being generous since I'm using a paper weld. And I want to adhere this piece centered, and it should be about 1 1/4, 1 1/8 or so. I think 1 1/4 is going to center it. Yeah, I'm kind of between at the 1/8 and the corner. So I'm kind of just using kind of the center rule. I'm like, how far down am I on this ruler? How far up and am I on that ruler? Once you know what measurement you're lining up your edge to, then you can adhere this down. And then I'm going to put tape along here. This will be a little easier because now you can center to the very bottom of your mat. And just adhere that along there. And then you can adhere your mini pieces either with repo tape or with mini tape along the top and the bottom. Like I said, I switched mine. I do like the look of the swell and wave cut together. If you don't like that, you can keep the pieces on the edges that they belong. If you don't want to weld like this and you are using a 12-inch base paper, you can also cut just something like this with your paper. You could just use a shorter strip. Trying to find it. Make sure you got it all cut. That was really bad. I think I'm about ready for a new blade, but I've been ignoring that. So I just cut it again, and then you could come over here and cut this one. You could even let it sit right where it's at. This is going to be a little bit fatter. If you cut them both like that, or you can adjust your paper, you can get a similar piece if you just want to adhere on a 12-inch paper that you have. Like I said, I didn't have 12-inch paper for this print that I wanted to use, which is why I end up cutting mine to weld them together. So there are two options of ways to kind of get the effect of this, and you can decide which one is easier for you mentally and works best for your supplies. So this is our new base paper. It looks a little bare, so that's why I decided we needed to add in a little bit of trim element. And like many of you, I take too many photos, and so I like to give myself as much wide space as possible. I already punched my pumpkins, but I felt like I needed to bring in a little bit of that complementing color. So for this layout, I'm doing an orange and a blue. So I need some strips of these. They're about 3/8 of an inch or so. Really helps stretch out some of these papers. Gives you a little bit of a taste of it, adds some accent to your layout, but you can stretch it out. That sweater weather paper was only a 6-pack. Didn't have a whole lot of options in there. A little strip across the top. And then add my pumpkins. Are you guys ready for Thanksgiving? My family started to talk about it. It's like Thanksgiving is late this year, but we're only like 2 weeks away. Is that right? Like 2 weeks and 2 days, which is like crazy. I am looking forward to the food though, the pie. So that is the base layout. So you can see it still looks kind of plain, but it's fun to go through your mats, especially if you can find a variety mat that maybe adds a complementing print to the one that you chose up here, something a little different. You know, this is a pattern, this is more straight line diagonals, and then you have an element with something of your thin borders really pulls it together nicely, and it's pretty basic. And you could do this in half the time if you weren't talking as much as me. So that's the kind of layout I like, and then I can go through my photos and figure out which ones to use. So I haven't obviously sorted these yet. This is the other um, trick that I like to do. So I know I've talked about this before, and some people ask me about how I do it. So when I go through all my photos, sometimes I feel like the 4x6 is just too big. And it does take a little bit of pre-work to think about. So when I'm getting ready to print, going through these pictures of my niece, I do not need all these as 4x6. It just takes up so much space. So I use the Project Life app. I use it very basic. I do all my photo editing on my phone. Someone asked me about that the other day. So on my iPhone, I change any color or anything like that. Then I go into Project Life and I just choose the option where you put two photos on a 4x6, and then I print them like that. And so here I have the 4x3. So they won't really fit in these little boxes, but I could layer them, or I'm going to probably change my mats around. So that kind of helps me get more on a page also. And then I can use maybe 4x3 peekaboos, or I can put them both on a 4x6 and use a 4x6 peekaboo. For some of you that might print um, a true ratio size. Like I usually print the on Walmart, I can go through and instead of printing 4x6, print the 4x5.3. And that way you don't have to worry about it kind of blowing up your picture. But then you get it and it's not quite, doesn't quite fit on your mat, especially if you're covering up maybe ones with some of the journal lines. And so that's when I will double mat this, and I'll choose a cardstock like this blue, a little bit of a double mat, and then I can still use the variety mats for journaling. I complained again about this to Megan today. I really wish they gave us more mini journaling options because I never have this much to say about almost anything. By the time I scrapbook it, I've forgotten all the details. Do you guys, how many of you actually fill up full journaling cards like this? Is this very common? Do you guys have this much to say that fills up all these big journaling spots? I never do. And so I end up using most of them as photo mats, which is just fine. Yeah, the strips were 3/8. But I do love the mats. I buy all of the sets for this purpose so that I can get, like in the paper, we didn't get this tiny crosshatch. You know, the print was bigger. You usually get some prints that the regular paperback doesn't offer. So they are a nice compliment, I feel like. So while Megan is doing her thing, I'm going to go through and figure out how to fit as many pictures as I can on these two layouts. And then the companion page I had from last month on that layout. And then I will post all of those results to the Facebook group, of course, tomorrow, so you can all see what I did. I talked for 10 minutes to begin, and I still got my layout done in 17. So how's that?
That's almost like you did half a layout. Like
I know,
you only did
I know,
one of the 2 pages that you're in,
I know.
people can do.
I was hoping they wouldn't notice. Like, I didn't even try to pretend like I was going to find a second collection. Like, this is not the week, everyone. I'm sorry. You're just going to get to see the second half. It's all I can give you tonight.
It all seemed to work out.
It all
So
works out.
let's see here. There we go.
Oh, you muted you. You moved. Wait, I was trying to mute myself, and your screen moved
She won't even
into
let
my
me talk.
spot.
She won't even let me talk. I'm done. I'm done. So welcome. As Tessa mentioned, I'm Megan Jax out here well, it's no longer sunny. It's dark out. We do get dark out here. The sun does set in Arizona, thankfully, because it sometimes otherwise, oh my God, summers. But I have a layout and I'm actually going to do both pages. I thought about just doing one, but then I wanted to show you that it's 2 pages because I've done a lot of single pages in the past few months. And so I thought I'd do double page, even though it's just 2 of the same. But we'll show you how to do the 2. And so I'm just going to go ahead and switch over here to my overhead. I didn't have any delightful fumes to sniff today. But I did show my husband. He was rather impressed. I told him, says, now imagine that garage filled with creative memories. All right, so here is what we're putting together. So I used the Homebody collection as my demo here, and it worked pretty well. And so it really started out as this ode to the decorative trimmer, but I wanted to show how it can be very simple, but yet you can add some really nice detail with those thin strips. Tessa showed, adding those details with the thin strips, whether it be stickers, border punches, you can use laser cut borders, thin strips of paper, works out great. But I'm going to show you how you can use those thin waves within your, with the decorative trimmer to have a good time with it. All right, so I am going to be using the What a Zoo collection because I need quite a few zoo paper layouts, and I'm not. I just thought it'd be fun. So you are going to want to have a couple of base pages to work with. One thing I do want to note that you can consider doing this. You don't have to do it. If your base paper happens to be a color that you really like, you can cut off the bottom 4 inches of your base paper, weld a scrap of something to the bottom of it, and build from there. So you don't need the bottom 4 inches of your base paper. You only need to worry about it if you want that other design. I really wanted that pretty teal paper. And so I went ahead and cut off the bottom and then built everything on top of that paper weld. Just wanted to put that tidbit out there. Now, this What a Zoo, I'm using the What a Zoo 2 paper pack. I'm using a little bit out of, I think I'm just using the regular pack. I don't think I'm using the texture pack. This is going to be my base page. As much as I like this strip of paper in here, I'm going to be honest, I've opened already like 3 packs of paper and I have like all 3 sets of this paper. So I'm not so concerned about conserving it. And the back side is this bluish paper, which is not necessarily going to work out well as that I don't need for mats in this layout. So I'm not going to worry about cutting off the bottom, paper welding and doing all that stuff. But if you wanted to, you could. It's the bottom 4 inches. You can then use it for mats and the rest of your layout, or just save it if you're a paper saver. So this is going to be the top of my layout here. I thought it would be fun to kind of have these flanking, like foliage come in across the top. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to do the waves. Now the wave does, it works out great if you're able to use both sides of the same piece of paper. The way we cut things, it works out really well. So I love the zebra stripe and I love the yellow. So we're going to put these together. It's going to be maybe a little loud and proud. I mean, it's going to have, these zebra stripes are it's going to have a lot going on, especially when I'm pretty certain I'm going to have the yellow at the top and alternate the zebra. So the zebra is actually going to be my bottom piece. And then it'll go the yellow, zebra, yellow. I want to end with yellow on the top. I like how the yellow ended versus the zebra. I just thought the zebra maybe was a little too busy. I don't know. What's nice about it is you can play around with it. Since you're using the same piece of paper, you can just flip it over and see what you like. So we'll get everything cut and decide from there. Now, the thing with this piece of paper here, we need to make sure when we cut these 3-inch bars that I show you in step 1, you want to make sure that you're cutting them the right direction. I want to make sure that my stripes are going perpendicular to my cut. So I'm going to have to make sure I turn my paper to the side. This is the top edge of my paper. So if you do have a directional print, you'll want to make sure that you have the top edge is on the side. And they're cutting 3-inch pieces. Now, if you're just doing a single page layout, you just want this to be a single page, you just need 2 of these. I'm going to cut all 4 pieces because I'm going to do a 2-page layout. And we're cutting 4 of them. So 3 inches wide each. So there's my 4 pieces. Now it's time to use the decorative trimmer. Now we want to cut these pieces in half. We know that this piece is 3 inches wide. So half is 1.5 inches from the cut line here. So we're using the wave edge. So here's my cut line, and you can see it lines up at 2, roughly 2 inches. So I'm going to come out here. I'm going to go all the way over to, it'd be like 1.5 inches here. So 2 inches, come back 1 inch, and then another 1/2 inch, or come over here to 3 inches. And if you close this, there's 3. You see 3 is right along the line. There's 3.5. So when I put my paper in, I'm going to line it up at 3.5, which is 2 full blocks to the left of this back edge of the wave. And the thing to note here is that we did center top to bottom, which is that 1 full square block off the top. And then you're going to go ahead and trim. Now, I do want to point out that these are not going to be equal, because the decorative trimmer does not like to cut things in half easily. You have to make an adjustment because that line is technically not in the halfway spot, but it's okay. It works for what we want to do. You're going to repeat that with all 3 pieces. Or excuse me, 4. You have 4 pieces. You do want to keep your pairs together. It doesn't matter too much. It just makes it a little bit easier when we go to kind of lay things out if you have your pairs. And 1 more. Then we'll get that last one done. I'm going to go ahead and grab my cutting mat. We are going to want to have something with the rulers on the side. It is going to make it much easier to put this thing together. Just making sure that we have a nice balance, the measurements on either side. I do give you those measurements. You'll want to use repo adhesive. I gave you measurements. You kind of do want to just dry fit everything first before you start putting like adhesive in place. So I'm going to go ahead. Here's my piece. Now I am going to use a little bit of repo adhesive on the back, and I'm going to tack this down. I do not want it to move once I get it in place. Now, as I mentioned before, I want the yellow to be across the top. And what I want you to look for here is you want the piece where the sides are going up. If you look at the decorative trimmer, we have waves where the slope ends on the down, and then we have this piece where the slope ends on the going up. You want the up piece to go here. And we're going to put it's going to actually come in, what did I say, at 5 inches? Is that, nope, it measured 5 inches from the bottom. So over here on the left-hand side, we see the 5. On the right, it will be at 7. Then I can take the opposite piece I had. I'm going to flip it over, show the zebra, and we're going to come in at about 3 3/4. This piece, what I want you to note here is you just want to make sure you don't see, like you can start to see at the bottom, you're basically just barely covering that up. So roughly 3 3/4 inch from the bottom. Then you're going to grab another piece where we have the slope coming up. And the piece for this one is going to come in at 2 7/8. So just before the 3 on the left and the 9 on the right. And then, if all goes well, this bottom piece should sit flush at the bottom. And what we are looking for is a fairly uniform, we want our piece here. So for me, it's the yellow. We want to see a uniformness. We want to see that these 2 sections are about the same size. If the middle piece here is a little bit smaller or bigger, it's okay. We really just want to see uniform size here. For me, it's the yellow. For you, it's whatever your top color is. So your top color and this middle piece right here, you want to make sure they're the same height. That looks good. It looks like the measurements that I had in my directions are going to work out, which is fantastic. I like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere things in place. Use repo adhesive if you need to. You can use regular adhesive. One thing I want you to do is keep your adhesive close to the straight edge. That's going to allow us, as we put photos in here, we can tuck things in if we don't have any adhesive along the curved wave edge. So this piece that peaks, that upward slope is going to come in at 5 inches. 5 inches over here on the right, or excuse me, the left, it's at 7 on the right. This next piece, we're going to put the edge is going to come in at 3 3/4. And on the right side, it comes down, it's actually at 8 1/4. We're measuring from the top on the right side. We measure from the bottom on the left. This next piece, we're going to have that peak is going to come in at 2 7/8 inches from the bottom when measuring on the left, 2 7/8. So it's just before the 9-inch mark. If you come up from the bottom, it's actually, yeah, I measured everything using the right edge, the left edge where it starts at 0 at the bottom. And then we'll come in with that final strip and it should sit flush at the bottom. If it overhangs a little bit, if you have to overhang the edge, that's okay. You can just trim it off. Flip your layout over and you'll just trim it off at the bottom. Okay, so there we go. Starting to take shape. I just love the idea that I can just tuck these photos in. I think it's fun. Okay, But here I wanted to add a little bit more. And when I first did this layout, the initial layout, I was like, oh, it's so nice and sweet, but it just needs more. I've always talked about, or I've talked about it before in like Scrapbook Live, when deciding colors, we have a lot of mid-tones in the paper pack itself. Got a mid teal, we had a mid color blue, we had the kind of the mid brown. We were kind of missing that dark tone. So pulling in the navy worked really well here. So what I'm going to do over here is I do have dark colors in here. Obviously, I've got the black. I do have some dark green in here, but I wanted to put something in here to that same detail. I'm not going to do black. I could do brown, but I decided to go with green, the dark green. And so I went ahead and I cut some pieces just to make sure I was going to like the green. And these are 1/4 inch strips, and I'll cut some here in a second to show you guys. It's really easy to cut these 1/4 inch strips, but you can see how that just adds that little bit of detail. Now it looks kind of black on screen, but it is green. I don't know if I'll be able to tilt it in the light or get it up here where you can see more of the green, but there is some green in there. So you'll need 4 of these strips per page that you create. So if you're doing a single page layout, you just need 4 strips. If you're doing 2 pages, you will need a total of 8 of them. Now I've already established my wave edge, but that's your first step. If you're working with a regular piece of paper that has a straight edge, you're going to want to just put it in far enough to establish your edge. That's all you need to do. You can throw that piece away. The next piece we're going to do is going to be a 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is going to be pushing it up 1 to the next square. So you can see right there how I've got it pushed up right to that next square. If you want to make them thinner, you could. I don't know that I would make them any thicker. You could make thin strips. If you felt this was like too much of the color and you just wanted a little hint, you could do thinner strips. All right, so now when it comes time to assemble, and you might still be cutting your pieces, that's okay. We are going to we want to use, I'm going to use repo adhesive just because my pieces are small. You could use the mini tape runner if you want. I am going to use the repo. And the first piece I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put on the top edge, and I'm coming down about a 1/4 inch. It's not quite a 1/4 inch. Really, what I want to do is I want the dip to kind of be in the middle. Well, it's not perfectly in the middle, but it's kind of. Don't push it down. Just kind of leave it in place. And then you're going to go ahead and put your adhesive on your second piece. And this is going to sit in there and it's going to overlap the previous piece in the middle. And your goal is kind of to have the same edge. You kind of want this whole shindig to be kind of centered in there, but don't stress it out if it's not perfect. There we go. And once you've got the placing there, you can go ahead and just smooth everything out. Now I'm going to do the second one. Now you see here that like, oh my gosh, it's going the wrong way. Nope, I'm going to flip it around. I just rotated it. I didn't have to like flip it over. I just rotated it 180 degrees. And the same piece thing here. We want it to kind of meet in the middle. And if you have anything that overhangs, obviously you just clean that up. But all in all, here is our piece. I would like that. Please note the time, Tessa. I got one page done in 15 minutes, which is like faster than you. Actually, no, you gave me more time, didn't you? She's like, how do I unmute myself? I can't get to my keyboard fast enough because I've got Christmas cheer sitting back on my desk.
No, I'm like cutting my
Or
pictures.
charm.
You can't hear me trimming my personal trimmer. The sound is so gratifying. I gave it to you at 27, so that was 19 minutes. That's very good for you.
19 minutes. Okay. I am going to go ahead and put the other piece, the other one together, and then we'll kind of jump into the mats. Just give you all a time to keep working. We've got your attention for a solid hour here. I'm going to put the second one together. I want to be able to see how it all looks with that wraparound effect. So we'll get the other page out, and I'm going to adhere that to my mat. I have a second mat somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. It's probably got Christmas charm on it or something. I worked on my layouts. I was only a couple days ahead of Tessa with Christmas charm. I was working on, well, no, I actually had a few more of them done before her. I worked on Power Hour and Christmas charm during the Chiefs game on Sunday. I sat on my bed with my scrap easel and kind of put everything together. It was delightful.
Like Kansas City?
The Kansas City Chiefs game.
I didn't know you were a fan of them.
I am
Are
a
you a Swiftie? Are you a Swiftie fan?
No. It is not a Swiftie thing. My father grew up in the just north of Kansas City. So he has always been a Chiefs fan. He's always been a Royals fan. My grandmother was really, I don't know if she really watched football as much as she listened to the Royals on the radio. My aunt, my dad's sister, is a huge Chiefs fan. And so we've always watched the Chiefs. I mean, there's been, some good years, there's been some bad years. But it was definitely good times. And then obviously the past few years have been really good. And the Swiftie thing, like, whatever. I will say, yeah. I honestly, I haven't listened to Taylor Swift since she went pop. So I'm just going to say.
She just came through Indianapolis and brought a whole lot of people with her last weekend or 10 days ago. We hosted Swift Fest. I did not go, but my neighbors did. But I was going to say is I've actually been watching the Colts this season because I actually really like Joe Flacco. He reminds me of Peyton Manning in the way he plays. Because I didn't really care about our previous quarterbacks since Peyton Manning, but
There's been a few of them.
Yeah, a few of them. Yes.
Yeah. It was a good game. I do feel I'm very sorry, Denver. I thought it was going to be the whole thing where, I mean, I think almost every Kansas City fan. So it's really, really funny. There's been a lot of humorous things of texting to my dad, because my dad obviously is the big fan, and the things that he'll text back. And I have to watch it though. I've learned my dad doesn't always watch. He records the game, and sometimes because he can't sit still for how many ever hours to watch an actual game. So he'll record it, and then he can fast forward through things. And so I have to make sure, like, because sometimes he'll just start it 45 minutes later, right? And then he can fast forward through the commercials. He can fast forward through the stupid stuff that he doesn't want to see, and so forth. And I have to catch him, and then I'll be like, he's like, well, I haven't finished the game yet. And he's like, so don't tell me. I said, well, it's a typical Mahomes game, so take that as you will. Which this season means they're going to win in the fourth quarter, but we'll see. Just finishing up these pieces. Tessa, have you been watching any of the college stuff?
No, but I've heard IU's actually been pretty good. But
they're like a legit team. Like, I wasn't sure if you were, did much with the IU. I mean, Purdue's kind of Purdue-ish.
No,
But
I think they were bad when I went to Bloomington. I don't know if they've ever been good since I
they've been
graduated.
bad for a very long time. I mean, that's that every one that we've caught any of it, they've commented how like I mean, IU fans, I mean, Indiana's got a legit team, they got a legit coach. So very exciting for them.
Yeah, I feel like I need to start paying attention. But their games are just, we've been busy on Saturdays, and that's when they're usually playing.
Yeah.
Sunday
Yeah.
afternoon is a little easier. 1 o'clock kickoff is Sunday afternoon. It's a lot more likely I can be home. So it's at least working around the house, even if I'm not sitting.
Yeah, for sure. That's usually those I use that a lot of to do a lot of catch up on computer work and things like that. All right, just getting these final pieces in there. I mean, we can actually keep scrapbooking. I mean, last pieces in there, and then we'll talk. I mean, these are really basic backgrounds. Um, so you can add your photos however you want. I do give you some suggestions on adding photos, like if you know if you need a little more, if you prefer to have a little bit more guidance, um you can see what some possibilities are there, but really you can add them however you want. Oh. So here is the layout side by side. I do like how it has framed in the everything here. So like I see Karen's comment, are we using the trimmers to try to bring it back in? No. Uh I will tell you guys, I messaged the Creative Memories CEO when I saw that it went to last chance in retirement, and I told her she broke my heart. Like literally broke my heart. And I knew this day was coming. I mean, I think we avoided it for 2 years because they accidentally reordered a bunch of them, literally an accident. And because she told us she wouldn't have approved that, but it accidentally went through. And so I like to think for the past 2 years that we have helped give new meaning and life to the decorative trimmer. We've seen it a few times in the Creative Memories blog. It was most recently on the as the Flurry of Fun project recipe, which cracked me up that it discontinued and it's part of the project recipe and part of the blog of projects that'll be coming up for the Flurry of Fun. Anyway, fun times. I have some paper here. I actually think I could use the peachy side plus the green side. I don't know that I can get all of the pieces. I might have to cut another piece of this to get everything that I used in the sample. So I think I'm going to, let's take a look. I think I want to use the green, the light green where I use the blue or the dark blue. And then I want to use the peachy color where I did these pieces. So I'm going to have to cut a second piece of paper, but I know I'm going to need some 4-inch pieces. I need 2 4-inch mats, 4x6s. And then I need some 4-inch squares. I think these are pretty generic sizes. So I will be able to, and let me see, this is not quite 6.5. So I'll go ahead and cut this down to 4 inches wide. And cut 2 4-inch squares. And then I need my second piece. I do love this What Is You pack. I think there were some comments earlier. People have used it and they've loved it. It's still, there's pieces of it still available if you have not used it. There's not much of the decorative elements left. This background piece actually I think is out of the Fast to Fab. There was a Fast to Fab inspired paper set that was part of this, and I'm not finding. I may have already used that other piece. Oh no, there it is. So I'm going to cut this to, it needs to be 6.5 by 8 3/4. I think I said 6.5 by 8 3/4. So 6.5, 8 3/4. that's going to be what I'm going to use for my double piece. And then over here, I will trim this to it's 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat. If you have, whenever we say 4.5 by 6.5 inch mats, I want you guys to instantly just think if you have a mat pack. I have a mat pack. All right. So what I can do is I can figure out, do I have a mat that I want to use? So I'm not going to cut a 4.5 by 6.5 inch mat because I'm going to use one of my variety mats. Okay. So this piece is going to get tucked in here. And maybe I will use that piece. The reason I'm thinking I'm going to use the other side is it lets this stand out. If I have this flipped over here, it kind of blends in. So I think I'll use that. I'm not going to adhere these down. That's going to give me the flexibility later when I'm working with my photos that I can pick which side is going to work the best. Because again, maybe I need to use that here. And then I can go through my variety mat. And I want the big ones, not the little ones. And I can see what I have. I don't have to use just 2 different colors. I could use, if I wanted to bring that zebra tone up, I could. I don't know that I'm really liking that one, but here's a fun one. Has kind of some blues and stuff in it. Could just go with dark green. But you can see where this is headed. So all in all, you can just have fun with laying things out there. I could make adjustments if I want to show off a little bit more over here. I could come in with a circle. I'll wait until I have my photos to actually finish this layout, to finish it out. All right, so that is what we've got going on there. I did see a person ask about the scrap easel, the scrap and easel. I'm going to give you guys my infomercial really quick because, oh no, so Tessa's getting it out. No. She doesn't get to show it off. I do. So this scrap easel, here it is. And it normally looks like you can have it sitting like this, right? It's angled. There's an easel on the back. It makes it so that it's angled here. You use magnets and you can use it then to pin your layouts in place. I actually prefer mine to sit upright more. Let me switch my camera so you guys can see. You're going to see how messy things are. Okay, here you go. So now you can see a little bit of my workspace here. So I have this, and I push this actually all the way up in front of me. So I have all of this workspace in front of me to use my trimmer, to have all my stuff, my mess, basically. You have I use magnet push pins that are like a clear. They're like, I get these off of Amazon, and they just stick here. So you can start coming in. And I have just some leftover pieces of Christmas cheer paper here that I'm going to show you. You can start your layout and you literally just put your piece. There is a little like plastic groove you can put your background paper in. And then you can just start pinning your pieces in place. I'm just grabbing what I can find. So maybe I've got a border and I'm like, oh, do I want that border up there? Like, oh, how do I like that? Oh, let me grab some photos do I want to place my photos on here? And you just start pinning things in place. And you can have a 2-page layout. They can just go side by side. And like I said, I have all this space up here to work. For me, my desk is deep enough that I can put my trimmer here and start moving things around. So it's a lovely, lovely tool. It's a great Christmas gift if you're thinking about it. It's available on Amazon. You can go to meggandtessa.com and our favorite things. And we have it, a link to the Amazon site. I don't know if we could expect to see it available for Black Friday deals. I want to say that I don't know that I've ever seen it available as part of a Black Friday deal. It's about $60 or $70. it's an investment, but I do love it. It really does, for me, from a standpoint of having more workspace, is a pretty fantastic thing, let alone the, because then what's nice about it is I can pick this up and I can move it out of the way and teach a class like Power Hour and just get it off my desk, especially when I'm not sure I've reached a block on that particular design. It's not working for me. I can just move it out of the way and move on with other things that I'm working on, and so forth. All right. So Carol, you're saying your desk is not deep enough. That is why I have mine upright. So my desk is pretty deep. This desk is, but I've worked on shorter spaces, and about 24 inches. If you've got 24 inches, it actually can give you more space, because it's moving all of that off of your workspace and elevating it so that you can see it really well, and giving you recovering that workspace in front of your where you can have your trimmer and so forth. All right. So that's what we have for you guys for Power Hour. As Tessa mentioned, our next thing is going to be Christmas charm project, our PageMakers workshop, which is coming up on Thursday. You can still register. That's at 10 o'clock Pacific, 8 or 1 p.m. Eastern. And I'm looking forward to it. Tessa's going to have 3 layouts. I'm going to have 3 layouts. I'm sure we'll have extra things in there if Tessa ever gets done figuring her stuff out, so I know what I'm using for mine. She's laughing back there. And then the next big thing that's going to be coming up, and we will get registration open for it, is going to be Winter Frolic. We will have a December Power Hour. We don't have a date yet. More than likely the second Tuesday of the month. However, we got to figure that out. But Winter Frolic will be starting. It's going to start on January 5th. So we have a little bit of time to get all the way through the holiday, plus recover from the first of the year. And then we will launch right into Winter Frolic. It's going to go the rest of January all the way through February. So registration will be coming up then. And yeah, that kind of takes us, I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's going to take us into the holidays. Do not try to contact Tessa the last week of December. I'm not even sure I make the list of contact. Like, seriously, it's like she goes no contact. She goes like Netflix and chills by herself. Like,
Everyone
nobody
has
talks
to
to
have a
her.
moment of recovery, and that's mine. Megan's just jealous. She wishes she could be alone for a week.
Yeah, yeah. I do. Unfortunately, I can't. So,
But
or
I will
I
say,
have to leave is the problem, and I don't want to leave. I would like people to leave my house, but I am excited. Now that I am in Arizona, my parents, and you were talking about Thanksgiving, getting ready for Thanksgiving. This, guys, is the first Thanksgiving in 26 years where I don't have to prepare everything. I am super excited. So the past maybe a few in there's been intermittent ones, less than 3, where we've spent it where I have not had to be the person like cooking the turkey and every other side dish for this thing. Now I get to go to my brother's house, I think, and my mom will have helped get the turkey ready to go, and I can literally show up with like 2 side dishes and feel like I've done enough. I'm super, super, super excited about that. My brother still gets to be the one that, I mean, he's hosting, so I'll give him a thing, but he was always the one, if you had this, the relative that showed up with the rolls, the store bought rolls. That was my brother for every one of those. And I mean, I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to make something that is not just store bought rolls, but it's better than having to do all of it. Same thing for Christmas. It'll be delightful. I'm very excited to live with family close by, that we can have those traditions again and not have to go to the airport. Though I do have to go to the airport. I've got to pick a kid up. My oldest, he'll fly in from, he has to come home for, he has a full week off at Thanksgiving, so he'll get to come home. All right. So I think we told you everything. Tessa, did you still have you announced last month's Power Hour winner?
no, I've been doing it when I post this month. So basically I have a whole month now. You get till the next time to post.
Okay. So they have a whole month. Use the hashtag that's on the handout, please.
Until the
And
next class.
can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys create. If you are not using Creative Memories paper, that's okay. If you don't want to post with your photos, we encourage you just to post before you put your photos on there. We're very excited to see them. This is the best part of Power Hour, is the all the posting that happens afterwards. Very excited to see.
I
What
do
do you
have to
win?
point,
Tessa, what do you send out some Happy Mail? Is that what you do? Or are they winning a class?
I send out embellishments.
She sends out Happy Mail.
But I do
So
have to make one note. I mean, everyone thinks that Megan is like the queen of decorative trimmer, and I won't argue that. I mean, she did remind everyone about it. I mean, I have been here the whole time though. I just want to point out. But so this is interesting. I did flip back through my Power Hour binder, and we actually have used it pretty equally. We both have used it like, well, now probably about 8 times, which I found interesting. So it's not all Megan. She just does the
no,
layout
it's
that
not
you
all me. It's just like
remember.
51% me.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more like, I mean, I give you a lot of credit, you do harder things, but yeah. I have Autumn Cottage done. The problem is I have to get the videos merged and it will probably come out without the handout because Christmas Charm and Power Hour and my garage and my accident all got in the way of that. So once Christmas Charm is done, then Autumn Cottage should go up. They are worth the wait. They are adorable layouts. I have the pictures posted.
You should post the picture so people know what they're waiting for.
Okay, I could do that. I have the pictures done.
Post the pictures.
Okay.
And then what you can also do is just put it on. Don't worry about merging them. Just put them on as a playlist on whatever so that it's not like a 5-hour video.
I was wondering about that because it ends up being kind of long because you do the booklet and then the second layouts for the booklet and then the stuff with all the rest of the
Yeah,
contents,
it's
and there was
intense.
a lot left.
A playlist is going to work just fine. And then when you put the handouts together, you can put that QR code to the playlist. It'll work out great. We'll get that figured out.
Okay.
All right.
Well, hopefully
Thanks
we
for
see you
joining
guys
us
Thursday.
Thursday. Yes, we'll see everybody on Thursday. Thanks so much for joining us. We will have this uploaded here soon. Susan's commenting about the blue blade doesn't cut as nice on the old blue decorative trimmer. Try out maybe the other blade in the pack. If it's really going rough for you, is to take a picture of it and reach out to Creative Memories. I'm not sure if you've got.
Sometimes you have to note though, if this isn't actually my original blue one, sometimes you have to note in the track, if you tend to like push the blade one way or the other when you cut, sometimes the track of the trimmer gets a little grooved, a little abrasion. And I had to replace a trimmer because of that once. So if it's always the same spot, check your groove to make sure it's clean.
All right. We will see you all soon. Thanks.